Hello, everyone. Welcome to ETCIO. My name is Varun Agarwal, and I'm the Senior Associate Editor for ETCIO. And today we have with us a very special guest, Rahul Sharma, who's the Managing Director, India and SAARC for Logmein. Welcome, Rahul.
Thank you, Varun. Thank you for having me.
Rahul, we were having a quick discussion about work from home, and this discussion has been going on for more than 6 months now. But organizations still seem to be struggling in implementing the right work from home framework and
Hmm.
basically making sure that IT works seamlessly in this scenario. So, just to understand, how did you manage to enable work from home for your own employees?
Yeah, first of all, that's a great question because just in the spirit of working, I just want to make sure that it's not just about work from home or remote work. It's basically work from anywhere. It's not necessarily to be in your office or your home or your client location or even while you're traveling. So, at LogMeIn, we've always been a work from anywhere company. Ever since our inception 17 years back, that's the technology that we created, built, and refined on to help organizations, first of all, do stuff like remote support remotely. Then got on to doing excessive collaboration remotely, and so on and so forth. So as far as LogMeIn is concerned, we are built on the DNA of working from anywhere. What that also does is that gives us a unique perspective or insight around what does work from anywhere mean and how should an organization embrace it. But coming back to the question that you asked me is that we see a lot of organizations still struggling to adopt work from anywhere, remote work, or work from home as a culture. And I think it boils down to two big things. One is the attitude towards remote working. If you know, it's always been there is a certain amount of stigma associated with working remotely. And that was the operating mechanics when it comes to remote work, at least in different industry segments in India. And it's a shame that it took us a pandemic to realize that work can happen from anywhere, right? And the second aspect is about the readiness to work from home. So while technology can solve a lot for the readiness aspects of things, it's the attitude aspect which needs a little bit of a working on. And I'm seeing a very encouraging trend on at least not just the technology side of technology vertical, but all of the other verticals who are now embracing the remote work culture. And what's encouraging to see is the signs coming out from some of the largest public sector banks in India, which are now actually declaring, and your publication covered a few of them around how they are thinking about working from anywhere for a large portion of their employees. So if financial services institutions can think about it, then I'm sure pretty much every other industry can start thinking about it. And I think from the readiness standpoint, every organization needs to have sort of a technology toolkit that they use, which can enable all of their employees to work from home. In our case, we went from a hybrid remote working, which means a lot of our employees used to come to work pre-pandemic or pre-lockdown, and we went from that stage to 100% remote overnight. So we actually decided on 23rd of March, and on 24th of March, each and every employee of ours, including our CEO, was working out of their home office. And that's been the case since then till now. So we haven't gone back to, none of our employees have actually gone back to office anywhere in the world. And we've been just remotely working from whatever locations are convenient for us. In some cases, employees within certain cities are traveling to their hometowns and are able to work out of their hometowns as well, using most of our technology that we use in-house. And that's
So I
how
think
we've enabled our
you
organization.
brought out you brought out this interesting point about the importance of company culture. So you already
Mhm.
had a culture wherein work from anywhere was part of the organization ethos. Uh, that's not true for most other organizations who are forced to do work from home right now. So
Yeah.
in terms of providing that additional support, what specific things are organizations looking from, and how are you really supporting them in terms of additional support for work from anywhere or work from home right now?
Yeah, sure. So, just before I dive into that question or answer that question, I think if you look back and think about SARS, SARS was actually credited for the rise of e-com in China. And you would see COVID-19 being credited for the rise of remote working across the world. I think that's the parallels that I can draw for both these experiences that we've seen. In terms of what we are doing with our customers, with communities at large, and anybody who wants to embrace our technology to enable their workforce to work remotely. So first and foremost, when the lockdown was announced, we immediately regrouped and thought about how we enable ourselves or our employees to work. Post that, we got into thinking about, this is a situation where probably Logmein has to stand up and take responsibilities of helping organizations, mostly in the emergency field. So healthcare, hospitality, education, government, not-for-profit companies, so on and so forth. And then also take the remote working and work from anywhere messaging across to all of the other customers that we have. So what we did was we launched something called as the Emergency Remote Work Kits. And these Emergency Remote Work Kits had a toolkit of all of our technologies, which were offered free of cost to use to our own existing customers. We offered it to government organizations across the world. So a lot of municipalities, a lot of central government agencies, state government agencies, federal agencies in the US, in UK, in Europe, across Asia Pacific, they all used the Emergency Remote Work Kit. We offered this to educational institutions because they were the biggest impacted. The schools and colleges, how do they take classes online from a physical for a always physical mode? So we offered them, and we offered it to not-for-profitable companies or charity organizations who felt the hit of this very heavily as well. So that became sort of like a runaway success because we found the peaks of our usage going by 10x. And by what do I mean by that? Our highest usage of GoToMeeting at any given point of time came in April of 2017. And if that was considered to be the peak of our usage of our product, in April of 2020, we saw that demand 10x. So if 100 people using it, there were 1,000 people who started using it. And that threw up a very interesting challenge on our part, was to how do we scale up our infrastructure for these users who are suddenly ramping up to start using it without any lack in experience, or without any, they shouldn't be struggling for using any of our product. I think my CIO organization spent at least 3 weeks of sleepless nights trying to ensure that every bit of infrastructure available across the globe for all of our millions of users and customers that use it have availability, have security, and we make sure that everybody is able to use that. And the only thing that we are not able to solve for is the last mile bandwidth, because more often than not, a bad experience of any online product or online tool is the lack of bandwidth at the user end. And that may come out to be a product experience, but if you sort of peel the layer of the onion, it actually boils down to what's the bandwidth. So we started thinking about different ways in which we could solve for that problem. And we started thinking about how a product can be built which actually works on low bandwidth areas. So we came out with product features which are commuter mode for GoToMeeting, which means that if I am attending a meeting from my phone, I essentially do not want to have a video conversation. I just want to have an audio conversation. I may not look at presentations being given because real estate on a mobile phone is very limited. So you can't actually have a good visual experience of a presentation there, right? So how do I enable GoToMeeting when you started from the phone to not use these higher utility services like a video presentation and just use audio? So people who are in low bandwidth area and are using their mobile networks can at least listen in or speak by using just audio feature on that tool. And we started doing this kind of experimentation with each and every one of our products to make sure that even in the most network challenged spaces, people still continue to use some version of our product and continue to stay connected to work. I think those are some examples that I can give you about what we've been doing for our customers as well as with our products as well as ourselves.
So that actually makes a lot of sense for most organizations because sometimes because of bandwidth, everything gets stuck, and even if you don't want to go on video, everything is
Hmm.
stuck because there's a lag. So at least this way, there's a workaround in low bandwidth areas. So
Yeah.
one of the other things that organizations are facing is around security. And
Hmm.
since employees are everyone working from their own Wi-Fi networks or home broadband connections, enabling a secure network is becoming a challenge. A lot of organizations tried doing VPN for everyone, but that both costly as well as choking the bandwidth. So,
Hmm.
how do you think organizations should actually look to solve that problem?
Yeah, I think one big transition that you're seeing with almost every organization is how to get onto the cloud. Because essentially, I mean, there was doubts around cloud products being secure in the past, and I'm sure we're talking about 8, 10 years back. But as we speak now, most of the cloud products that you use, at least in an enterprise, are secure from a product standpoint. You don't see so many data breaches happening. At least from what I've seen in Logmein, all of our products that we have, they are built on a very strong security architecture. So we don't have too many breaches of any sorts on most of our products. But then, we also need to start thinking about it from an end user standpoint. And how does organization ensure that its employees are also secure because they're using their home networks and all those things? So what we do at Logmein is we use a combination of industry-leading products and match them with a lot of multi-factor authentication. We use our own product called LastPass, which is a secure enterprise-grade password vaulting solution, which allows multi-factor authentication and usage of highly encrypted passwords, enable our teams to do that. And we see that this trend is now being adopted with a lot of our customers as well. In any given organization, the joke is that there are passwords which are written on sticky post notes and passed around in the office, or you have an Excel file in which you have passwords being circulated. I think we, as an organization, have done away with that. We use LastPass, which is it's a free tool. So for an individual, you can use LastPass free of cost. If you would like to use it, please go ahead and use that. But you can actually have 256-bit encrypted passwords created by the tool itself, and have it fill up all those passwords on your behalf every time you're logging into something. Now, that does not completely eliminate the need for VPN, but it narrows down the need for VPN to a very, very limited set of applications that is probably niche to use. Maybe finance has some applications in our office which require VPN tunneling to be done. Or sales operations may be having a few applications that they use that require VPN tunneling. So instead of the entire organization using it, narrows down to places or edge cases where you require VPN to be used. That will solve for a lot of bandwidth related challenges.
In fact, that's a very interesting point because I was just talking to some CIOs yesterday, and some of them were actually facing this issue that the password changing facility was only available when the user was connected to the corporate network, and once
Yeah.
he's connected to a private network, there's no way they can actually get the password changed. So the user would actually have to call into basically the IT cell, and they'll actually read out a password for him. So
Yeah.
that's like the most insecure way of sharing passwords, and there's no way the user himself can actually change the password. Someone always knows what password he has.
That's true.
So
And human password habits are very funny. If you have two email IDs, chances are you're using the same password for both the email IDs. True for bank.
right.
Same goes for bank accounts as well. If you have 2 or 3 bank accounts, you will have similar or near similar passwords for all of those bank accounts. It's just a matter of somebody being able to figure out what your unique combination is, and you could be susceptible to hacks. And we all know it that most of the hacks that happen, the weakest link has always been the passwords.
Absolutely. So finally, one quick question. How do you see things going forward once everything opens up, and we're hoping it happens soon?
Hmm.
Do you see a change in the work culture as we see it today, or do you expect people to go back to the regular way of working?
Well, I certainly hope that we learn from this experience that everybody is going through, because this is probably not the first pandemic that we have seen, and this will certainly not be the last one. What organizations need to start thinking about is how they create a sort of a blended workforce in which most critical elements or people who actually really need to come to office to work are actually provided with ways in which they can utilize that benefit. But if there are parts of the organization which can work remotely, then you create a culture which allows you to embrace that. And like I said in the very beginning, if Indian public sector organizations can start thinking about doing that, I'm pretty certain any industry can challenge themselves to think about how they can adopt this.
I think that's very, very well put. Thanks so much for your time, Rahul.
Thank you, Varun. It was a pleasure speaking to you.